Commander Rhea Harrison had attended enough diplomatic functions to know when something was wrong. The crystalline spires of the Galactic Concordat Central Embassy stretched toward the violet sky of Centauri Prime, but her attention was fixed on the subtle movements of the guards at the perimeter. Their positions had shifted 3 times in the past hour, standard protocol for preparing to lock down the facility. The annual Peace Summit was supposed to be a celebration of interspecies cooperation. Instead, Rhea's combat instincts were screaming that she was walking into a trap. 20 years of military service before joining the diplomatic corps had taught her to trust those instincts. "Your heart rate has elevated, Commander," came a melodic voice behind her. "Are you finding our hospitality lacking?" Rhea turned to face Ambassador Nixis of the Luminian Collective. The ambassador's crystalline skin caught the light of the setting suns, creating rainbow patterns across her elegant diplomatic robes. Like all Luminians, she possessed an otherworldly beauty that reminded Rhea of cut diamonds, beautiful, but with hidden edges. "Not at all, Ambassador," Rhea replied smoothly. "I was just admiring the architecture. The crystal resonance patterns are particularly striking this evening." Nixis's iridescent eyes narrowed slightly. "Indeed. Though I find myself more intrigued by the human capacity for observation. Your species notices the most unexpected things." Before Rhea could respond, a chime signaled the beginning of the evening's formal proceedings. The gathered diplomats began moving toward the Grand Hall, a sea of diverse species united under the banner of peace. Rhea noticed several of the guards speaking quietly into their communications devices. "Shall we?" Nixis gestured toward the hall. "I believe we're seated together for the ceremony. The Concordat seems quite interested in fostering closer human-Luminian relations." As they walked, Rhea's augmented senses picked up minute variations in the ambient energy fields. The defensive systems were powering up. She'd studied the embassy's security protocols extensively before this mission. These patterns didn't match any standard procedures. The Grand Hall itself was a marvel of alien engineering. Crystalline chandeliers floated without visible support, casting prismatic light across the assembled dignitaries. At the center of each table sat an ornate decanter filled with ceremonial wine, a tradition dating back to the founding of the Concordat. "A toast," announced High Chancellor Vex, his scaled form towering over the podium. "To peace between worlds, and the bright future we shall forge together." Servers moved through the crowd with practiced efficiency, filling crystal glasses with luminescent blue liquid. Rhea noticed Nixis's hands trembling slightly as she accepted her glass, another detail that seemed wrong for the usually composed ambassador. "To peace," the assembly echoed, raising their glasses. Rhea's enhanced olfactory implants detected something odd in the wine's aroma, a subtle chemical signature that shouldn't have been there. She watched as Nixis raised the glass to her lips, and in that moment, several things happened at once. The security fields around the hall suddenly activated, trapping everyone inside. Nixis took a sip of the wine, and her crystalline skin immediately began to dull. And Rhea's combat augments screamed a warning about a deadly toxin now present in the air. "Poison," Rhea whispered, catching Nixis as the ambassador's legs gave out. Around them, other diplomats began to show signs of distress, but Rhea's focus was entirely on the Luminian in her arms. Nixis's normally brilliant skin was turning an alarming shade of gray. "How observant," Nixis managed, her voice weak. "Though I fear, your reputation for human resilience will not help either of us now." But Rhea was already moving, her augmented muscles easily supporting Nixis's weight as she assessed their options. The toxin was spreading through the air system, but her military-grade filtration implants were handling it. The real problem was the direct poison in the wine. She recognized the symptoms of crystalline degradation, fatal to silicon-based life forms like the Luminians. "Don't be so sure about that, Ambassador," Rhea replied, her mind racing through possibilities. "We humans have a habit of surviving things we shouldn't. And right now, that might be exactly what you need." The hall had descended into chaos, but Rhea remained focused. She'd seen enough death in her military career to recognize its approach, and she'd be damned if she was going to watch another diplomat die on her watch. Especially one who might be the key to understanding why someone had just tried to murder the entire peace summit. As alarms began to sound throughout the embassy, Rhea made a decision that would alter the course of human-alien relations forever. She just didn't know it yet. The secure medical bay in Rhea's diplomatic quarters hummed with activity as she laid Ambassador Nixis on the examination table. The Luminian's crystalline skin had dulled to an alarming shade of gray, with fracture patterns spreading across its surface like cracks in ice. "Your security protocols are impressive, Commander," Nixis managed between labored breaths. "Though I doubt they will deter our assassins for long." Rhea's hands flew across the medical console, her neural implants interfacing directly with the system. "The poison is a variant of the Nox, military grade. Someone really wanted to make sure this worked. And yet you seem unaffected," Nixis observed, her iridescent eyes studying Rhea with newfound interest despite her deteriorating condition. "Human biology has its advantages," Rhea replied, reviewing the scan results. "Our planet's such a death trap that we evolved universal toxin resistance. What kills other species usually just gives us indigestion." The medical AI flashed a warning: crystalline degradation critical. No known treatment protocol. Rhea's mind raced. The poison was breaking down Nixis's silicon-based cellular structure. Without intervention, the ambassador would literally shatter from within. But maybe. "How much do you know about human medical history?" Rhea asked, already removing her diplomatic jacket to access the medical port in her arm. "Less than I should, apparently," Nixis replied, her voice growing weaker. "Though I suspect I'm about to learn something fascinating. Back on Earth, we used to treat poisoning victims with universal antidotes, substances that could neutralize multiple toxins at once," Rhea explained, connecting a synthesis chamber to her medical port. "The most effective one was human blood." Nixis's eyes widened. "You cannot be serious. Cross-species blood transfusion has never been successfully attempted between silicon and carbon-based life forms. The molecular structures are completely incompatible." "Incompatible is just another word for, hasn't been done yet," Rhea said, watching as her blood filled the chamber. "My augments don't just filter toxins, they produce universal antibodies. Theoretically, they could provide a template for your crystalline structure to rebuild itself." "Theoretically," Nixis repeated. "And if you're wrong? Then we'll both have died trying something unprecedented, which is a very human way to go." Rhea's attempt at humor drew a weak laugh from the ambassador. The medical chamber finished its analysis, combining Rhea's enhanced blood with crystalline growth factors. The resulting mixture glowed with an otherworldly blue light. "Last chance to back out," Rhea said, preparing the injection. "Though I should warn you, we humans can be very persuasive when we think we're right." "I noticed that during trade negotiations," Nixis replied, her voice barely a whisper now. Perhaps it's time we Luminians learn to embrace the impossible as readily as humans do." Rhea administered the injection. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Nixis's body began to glow, her crystalline structure illuminated from within by swirling patterns of blue and crimson. The ambassador gasped, her back arching as human blood mixed with crystalline biology in ways that defied conventional science. "Fascinating," Nixis breathed, watching as the fracture patterns in her skin began to heal. "I can feel everything. Your blood, it carries more than just antibodies. There are patterns, memories." "A side effect of the neural augments," Rhea explained, monitoring the readings. "They encode experiences into the blood cells. Makes for more effective adaptive immunity, but it can have some interesting psychological effects." "Interesting is an inadequate word, Commander." Nixis's voice was stronger now, though filled with wonder. "I can sense your determination, your courage, your absolute certainty that this impossible thing would work." Before Rhea could respond, the security system chimed a warning. Multiple armed signatures detected approaching the medical bay. "Looks like our assassins found us," Rhea said, already moving to the weapons locker. "How are you feeling, Ambassador?" Nixis stood, her movements fluid and graceful. Her skin had regained its crystalline luster, but now it was shot through with swirling patterns of crimson that pulsed in time with her movements. Like someone who has just witnessed humanity's remarkable talent for turning crisis into opportunity. "Good," Rhea replied, tossing her a weapon. "Because I have a feeling we're about to need every advantage we can get. Ready to show them what happens when human ingenuity meets Leminian precision." The ambassador's smile was as sharp as her crystalline edges. "I believe, Commander, that this is the beginning of a most unprecedented partnership." As the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridor, Rhea couldn't help but smile back. She'd come to this summit hoping to improve human-Leminian relations. She just hadn't expected to do it quite so literally. The assassins were about to learn a painful lesson about underestimating human adaptability, and the power of bonds forged in crisis. Their escape from the medical bay had been a revelation. Rhea watched in amazement as Nixis moved through the firefight with impossible grace, her crystalline form deflecting energy bolts while the crimson patterns in her skin pulsed with combat-enhanced human reflexes. They fought as one unit, each anticipating the other's movements with uncanny precision. Now, safely aboard Rhea's diplomatic vessel, they had time to process the full implications of what they'd done. The ship's advanced medical bay displayed a holographic model of Nixis's transformed biology, crystalline structures interwoven with patterns that could only have come from human DNA. "The integration is complete," Nixis said, examining her own molecular structure with fascination. "Your blood didn't just neutralize the poison, it's fundamentally altered my crystalline matrix. The patterns are beautiful." Rhea studied the readouts, her neural implants processing the data streams. "The adaptive properties of my enhanced blood found a way to bridge the gap between our biologies. It's using your crystalline structure as a framework to create something entirely new. I can feel it." Nixis touched her chest where swirling patterns of crimson danced beneath her translucent skin. "Your memories, your instincts, they're becoming part of me. Earlier, during the fight, I knew exactly how to move, where to position myself. I fought like a human while remaining Leminian. That's the neural encoding," Rhea explained, though she was equally amazed by the results. "My augments store combat experiences in blood cells. I never expected them to translate across species like this." A proximity alert interrupted their discussion. 3 vessels had dropped out of FTL near their position, Concordat security cruisers. "They're not giving up easily," Rhea observed, moving to the bridge controls. But before she could reach them, Nixis was already there, her fingers dancing across the interface with practiced skill. "I know," the ambassador replied, executing a perfect evasive maneuver. "Your tactical training is quite extensive, Commander. And now, apparently, so is mine." Rhea watched in amazement as Nixis piloted the ship with a combination of Leminian precision and human intuition. The pursuing vessels couldn't match their unpredictable flight pattern. "We need to understand why they're so desperate to stop us," Rhea said, accessing the encrypted data they'd stolen during their escape. "This goes beyond a simple assassination attempt." "Indeed." Nixis's crystalline features reflected the starlight as she concentrated. "The poison wasn't just meant to kill us, it was designed to prevent exactly this kind of human-Leminian integration. They feared what might happen if our species truly began to understand each other." Through their growing connection, Rhea could sense Nixis's emotions, wonder mixed with concern. They never imagined their weapon would backfire so spectacularly. "Humans do have a remarkable talent for turning deadly situations to their advantage," Nixis observed with a hint of admiration. "Though I must admit, sharing blood with one is proving to be far more enlightening than our usual diplomatic exchanges." A warning flashed across the ship's sensors, the pursuing vessels had launched interceptors. But before Rhea could react, Nixis had already adjusted their course, using a maneuver that combined Lemnian spatial awareness with human combat tactics. "We appear to be proving their fears correct," Nixis said, her voice carrying an unexpected note of satisfaction. "One human and one Lemnian, working in perfect harmony. Imagine what our species could achieve together if others knew this was possible." Rhea moved to stand beside her, watching as the interceptors fell behind. "That's exactly what they're afraid of. Humanity's adaptability combined with Lemnian advancement, we'd be unstoppable." The crimson patterns in Nixis's skin pulsed brighter as she turned to face Rhea. "I'm beginning to understand why humans embrace change so readily. Every moment brings new discoveries, new possibilities. It's exhilarating." "Welcome to the human experience," Rhea smiled. "We thrive on the impossible." Their moment of understanding was interrupted by a priority message breaking through their communications blackout. The Lemnian High Council was demanding an explanation for Nixis's transformed biology, while Earth Command wanted immediate details on the unprecedented medical procedure. "They're afraid," Nixis observed, reading the messages through their shared connection. "Not just of what we've done, but of what it represents. The barriers between our species are crumbling, and they can't stop it." "Good," Rhea replied, her determination flowing through their bond. "Because what we've created here isn't just about survival anymore. It's about proving that our differences aren't obstacles, they're opportunities." As their ship slipped into the safety of deep space, both women knew they had started something that would change both their species forever. The poison meant to drive them apart had instead forged a connection that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. And they were just beginning to explore its potential. The emergency session of the Galactic Council chamber pulsed with tension. Representatives from a dozen species watched in barely concealed fascination as Rhea and Nixis took their positions at the center of the vast amphitheater. The crimson patterns flowing through Nixis's crystalline form drew particular attention, living proof of an integration that should have been impossible. "This is an abomination," High Chancellor Vex declared, his scales darkening with rage. "Commander Harrison has contaminated a Lemnian ambassador with human biological material. The diplomatic implications alone are fascinating," interrupted Dr. Senna Vale, Earth's chief xenobiologist. Her holographic form flickered as she studied readings from Nixis's transformed biology. "The human blood hasn't contaminated anything. It's created an entirely new form of sustainable hybrid biology. The implications for medical science are revolutionary." Through their shared connection, Rhea felt Nixis's mix of amusement and determination. The ambassador stepped forward, her crystalline form catching the light in ways that emphasized the flowing patterns of human DNA now part of her structure. "Revolutionary is precisely what they feared," Nixis announced, her voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber. "We've uncovered evidence that the assassination attempt was part of a larger conspiracy. One designed to prevent exactly this kind of breakthrough in human-Lemnian relations." The encrypted data they'd stolen during their escape played across the chamber's holographic displays. Communications logs, weapon designs, terror cell funding, all pointing to a coordinated effort to keep humanity isolated from advanced species. "Impossible," Vex sputtered, but Rhea could see other council members leaning forward with interest. "That word has lost much of its meaning since I began sharing blood with a human," Nixis replied, drawing surprised murmurs from the assembly. "Commander Harrison's enhanced biology didn't just save my life, it showed me the true potential of our species working together." Rhea stepped forward, her combat augments scanning the chamber for threats even as she addressed the council. The poison was designed to shatter crystalline life forms while being harmless to carbon-based species. They wanted to blame humans for a diplomatic massacre. Instead, Nixis continued, the crimson patterns in her skin pulsing with shared emotion, it proved that humanity's greatest strength isn't their technology or their adaptability. It's their willingness to embrace the unknown, to see possibilities where others see only barriers. Through their bond, Rhea felt Nixis's absolute conviction in these words. The ambassador wasn't just speaking diplomatically, she had experienced human innovation from the inside, felt the drive to explore and connect that defined their species. "Look at what we've achieved," Rhea gestured to their linked biology displayed on the medical screens. Human adaptive immunity merged with Lemnian crystalline structures. "We're not just coexisting, we're evolving together." The chamber erupted in debate, but a new alert cut through the chaos. Multiple ships were dropping out of FTL around the station, a mix of Concordat warships and what appeared to be privateer vessels. "It seems some parties wish to ensure their conspiracy remains hidden," Nixus observed, already moving in perfect sync with Rhea toward the chamber's defensive positions. "Let them try," Rhea replied, her combat systems interfacing seamlessly with Nixus's crystalline sensory abilities. Through their shared blood, they could coordinate beyond the capabilities of either species alone. They wanted to stop our species from working together. Instead, they're about to witness exactly what that cooperation can achieve. The first explosions rocked the station as infiltration teams breached the outer defenses. But Rhea and Nixus were ready, their merged abilities creating a fighting style never before seen in the galaxy. Rhea's tactical augments flowed through their bond, giving Nixus enhanced combat awareness, while the ambassador's crystalline biology enhanced Rhea's sensory perception far beyond human norms. "The Council is seeing exactly what they feared," Nixus observed as they moved together through the chaos, protecting diplomats and neutralizing attackers with extraordinary efficiency. Human adaptability combined with Lemnian advancement. "We're proving their worst fears correct." "Good," Rhea replied, feeling their shared satisfaction through the bond. "Sometimes the only way to overcome fear is to face it head-on." They wanted to keep our species apart because they couldn't control what we might become together. As they fought to protect the chamber, their actions spoke louder than any diplomatic argument. The assembly watched in amazement as human and Lemnian abilities merged into something greater than either species alone. The conspiracy had sought to prevent cooperation between their peoples. Instead, they had catalyzed an evolution that would reshape galactic society. The battle for the future of human-Lemnian relations wasn't just being fought with weapons and words. It was being won by the living example of what their species could achieve together, written in shared blood and manifested in perfect harmony of action. And through it all, their bond continued to grow stronger, deeper, more complex. What had started as a desperate measure to save a life had become something unprecedented, a bridge between species that promised to change everything. 3 months after the attack on the Council chamber, Rhea stood at the observation deck of the newly commissioned vessel, Unity's Dawn. The ship represented everything they'd fought for, a seamless fusion of human and Lemnian technology, just as its commanders embodied the fusion of their species' strengths. "The final integration reports are remarkable," Nixus said, joining her at the viewport. The crimson patterns in her crystalline form had stabilized into elegant flowing designs, a permanent reminder of their shared biology. 23 successful human-Lemnian medical procedures using protocols developed from our bond. Through their connection, Rhea felt her partner's pride and satisfaction. What had started as a desperate gamble to save a life had sparked a revolution in interspecies medicine and cooperation. The xenophobe's worst nightmare, Rhea smiled, watching as crystalline patterns shimmered beneath her own skin. Her biology had adapted to the merger just as Nixus's had. They tried to keep our species apart, and instead created something they couldn't have imagined. A priority alert flashed across their neural link. The last remnants of the conspiracy had been tracked to a hidden base in the Outer Rim. High Chancellor Vex had fled there after his involvement was exposed, gathering whatever forces remained loyal to his vision of species segregation. "They still don't understand," Nixus observed, her tactical awareness, a gift from their shared blood, already analyzing potential approach vectors. "They see our bond as a threat because they can't comprehend evolution beyond their narrow definitions." "Then let's help them understand," Rhea replied, feeling their shared determination flow through the bond. One last demonstration of what humanity and Lemnians can achieve together. The Unity's Dawn slipped into FTL, its hybrid drive systems operating at levels impossible for either species' technology alone. Like its commanders, the ship represented the best of both worlds, human intuition and adaptability merged with Luminian precision and power. They emerged from FTL above a crystalline world, its surface dotted with defensive installations. Vex's last stronghold, filled with those who still believed that species should remain forever separate and unchanged. They're charging weapons, Nixus reported, though Rhea had felt it through their bond simultaneously. Fascinating designs, they've been developing technology specifically to target our hybrid biology. Too bad they don't realize that's our greatest strength, Rhea replied, their shared consciousness already formulating strategies. We adapt. We evolve. Every attempt to destroy us only makes us stronger. The battle that followed demonstrated everything the conspiracy had feared. Unity's dawn danced through their defensive screen, human tactical unpredictability enhanced by Luminian spatial awareness. When boarding parties attempted to breach their hull, they were met by commanders who fought as one being. Rhea's combat augments synchronized perfectly with Nixus's crystalline abilities. You've corrupted everything. Vex's voice crackled across the communications channels as they cornered him in his command center. Our species were meant to remain pure, separate. No, Nixus replied, her crystalline form resonating with conviction. We were meant to grow, to change, to become more than we were. Humanity showed us that evolution isn't just possible, it's essential. Through their bond, Rhea shared a memory with Nixus, that first desperate moment when she'd offered her blood, believing in possibility over limitation. The ambassador broadcasted it across all channels, letting everyone see the truth of how their transformation began. Your fear of change, of connection, of evolution, that's what's corrupt, Rhea declared. Look at what we've achieved. Not just survival, but transcendence. Every barrier you tried to create between us became a bridge instead. The last battle wasn't fought with weapons. It was won with truth, with living proof that cooperation and adaptation were stronger than fear and isolation. As Vex's followers witnessed the perfect harmony between human and Luminian, embodied in their transformed commanders, resistance crumbled. 1 year later, the Galactic Council chamber was again filled with representatives from across known space. But this time, they gathered to witness something unprecedented, the graduation of the first class of human Luminian hybrid medical specialists. They carry our legacy, Nixus observed, watching as humans and Luminians demonstrated their newly developed abilities to share and adapt biology across species. Not just in blood and form, but in understanding. Every barrier overcome, every connection forged, it all began with one moment of trust between us. Rhea felt their bond pulse with shared emotion. They wanted to poison us, to keep us apart. Instead, they gave us the key to something beautiful. Proof that humanity's greatest gift isn't our adaptability, it's our ability to share it with others. As they watched the next generation of human-Luminian partnerships emerge, both knew that their story had become more than just a diplomatic incident or a medical breakthrough. It was a testament to the power of trust, of believing in possibility over limitation, of reaching across the void between species to forge something entirely new. The poison meant to divide them had instead unleashed an unstoppable evolution. And in their shared blood flowed the future of both their species, not separate, not pure, but magnificently, perfectly transformed together.